Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. With my pending trip, I have had to put a number of my fish-related projects on hold. I really couldn't set up the new tanks for the new section for the recycled rack and then go away for a week. They'd probably be fine, but it's better just to wait till I get back. So I thought I would get to a couple of projects that I had meaning to do, non-fish related, and also ones that if I don't manage to get them done before I leave, there's no real big deal. I'll just finish them when I get back. So one of the ones I mentioned, I think it was in the last video, is I want to put together a vise or clamping system for when I do acrylic glue-ups. Especially the slightly longer ones, like I did the foot long, because often in that, as I mentioned in that video, there's a bend to the acrylic. So this is going to hold that straight and also hold it at 90 degrees. And the other interesting thing, and something I want to try out, is it's going to hold it while it cures. So I can go do something else and then come back. Because I'm trying to get a completely bubble-free joint, and I do periodically, but every now and then a bubble will creep in, and I'm hoping to get rid of it with this. So I am going to make the actual clamp system out of brass. This is what's going to put force onto the pieces of wood that are actually going to hold the acrylic. Now I've chosen pine for the actual structure because it's soft and it won't put any pressure points on the acrylic, and hopefully it'll just hold it all nice and straight and even, and it won't mar it in any way. Now, I decided to make the fittings, like the actual fittings, out of brass because, first off, brass is easy to work with, and also it looks really nice. I tried doing a little bit of it with wood, tried to thread some wood. The problem with threading wood is it's kind of hit and miss, and it doesn't look as nice as brass, obviously. And what'll happen is you'll be threading it, and you'll end up with one or two of the threads have little breaks in them, and again, it just doesn't look as nice as a nice smooth piece of shiny metal. And also, I have machined a lot of brass, and I'm accustomed to working with it, and I don't really have to work out any kind of new methods or anything. It's just a simple matter of doing it. So what I'm going to do here, as you saw the piece at the beginning of the video, that is one I've already done up. This is the process I went through to make that. And it is actually quite easy. It only takes about probably about an hour to put one of these together. It's not very long, and of course, for those of you who think it's just easier to go to the hardware store and pick up some fittings, you're right. But then again, I'd have to get into my car, and then the way things are these days, I'd have to also wait in line sometimes to get into the hardware store. And then, of course, hopefully they have something that's even close to what I would want for this sort of build. And those of you who have been around my channel long enough know that I would much rather do a DIY project anyway. And the nice thing about this is I get exactly what I want. Now, the reason why I'm going with a larger girth here, or a much more robust nut and bolt system than I would really need. I mean, obviously, to hold acrylic in place, we're talking about a real minimal amount of force required. It bends really easily. So this is a very strong clamping system, which I could use to hold almost anything together, because I have used 1/4-inch ones. I mean, actually, there's a couple sitting on the slide here when it goes back and forth, and I've used it to hold down when I'm doing machining on the milling machine. So this is obviously more than strong enough. But the bolt size, I went with 1 inch, and it's going to be easy enough for me to manipulate with my fingers without having to add on anything else like knurling or anything along those lines. And it will be smooth enough and strong enough and aesthetically pleasing enough, I guess I should say, for this to work as is. I won't have to worry about doing anything additional for it. And yes, again, it is overkill, but I haven't really worked with 1/2-inch threading, mostly because as you watch as I go along here, it is a bit of a workout. It is harder to obviously turn and thread and tap than the 1/4 inch. But again, like I said, this is sometimes I like to try slightly new things, and that's what this is for this particular project. So that's the longer thread. This is going to feed through the actual bar section that's going to hold the acrylic in place, and then I'll use the nut to tighten it down, and it has to have enough give there for that to happen. The other end is going to be much shorter, and it's just going to be the backing, and that's going to fit through well, if you remember from the beginning, I'm obviously not making it out of the plywood, but it's going to be in the same configuration when I do it out of pine. It's going to feed through from the back, and that large nut is going to hold it in place and give me that leverage I need to straighten it out. Now you can see this is actually very quick. It doesn't take long to do, and it looks a lot nicer. You'll see at the end, or on the thumbnail, of course. It is very aesthetically pleasing, and I do want to start working a little bit more in not so much just fine woodworking, because obviously there are much better channels for that, but I do want to branch out my skill set so I can do a little bit more along those lines. A lot of stuff I build for clients is plywood based. I usually use hardwood plywood, but I would like to get into some cabinetry work at some point in time, and this kind of gives me a bit of practice of that, because I'll have to, when I get to the woodworking section, I'll have to straighten it out, get rid of bends. I don't have the equipment. I don't have a planer. I don't have a jointer. I don't have any of that fancy stuff. So it'll all be done by hand. And for a project of this size, it's not such a big deal. So this is 1 inch round bar. And I am going to first put a 3/8 inch drill bit through it. And then I am going to go up to the threading size, the one I'm going to use to run the tap through. I'm running 1/2 inch threads, so it is just under by a 1/16 of an inch, and that will that'll give you enough threads, and it'll match up with obviously with the bolt part of this. So this is really easy to do. Now, I used to have a parting tool. I'm not sure where it got to. I think I ended up I got some salt on it or something at some point in time, and I think I threw it out. So what I do is, first off, I'm going to run the tap through all the way to the bottom, and then I'm just going to use my stock bandsaw, the cutting one, for cutting up metal, and I'll just cut off rings, and then I will size those. And then, of course, once I have this closer to being finished, I will actually use the bolt section of this for the final sizing for both of them. And you'll see as we go along here. So this is not hard to do at all, really. I mean, it is physically a little bit demanding, I suppose, but lengthwise and time-wise and whatnot, like I said, it only took me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to do the whole thing, and that's really not that much. And it's obviously, for me, it is definitely the way to go. Now, the reason why you saw me stop and then reset, the camera is right about where I normally put my head when I'm watching and I'm doing things, so I'm actually standing a little bit further back than I normally would, and it is a little bit of an odd angle for me, so it's hard sometimes to get the bit in exactly the right position for things. So I've sized it, now I'm just sanding it down just to make it nice and shiny. I'm not going to bring it down to a full shine because it is a functional tool, and a little bit of roughness is better for the hands to grip it, and also it's going to get banged up anyway, so it's might as well just make it look nice and not worry about it. So I've put it in my metal cutting bandsaw, and I have chopped off the section I need, and now I'm going to put it on here. I use believe it or not, this is the piece of acrylic that I cut and machined to size. It is perfect for this style of thing. It gives me enough grip on the actual thing I'm machining, and I can just easily pull it out, and I machined it to be parallel, so it's just funny, but it actually works really, really well. And this is actually one thing I really like about working with lathes. This piece is maybe about 2/100ths of an inch sticking out from the jaws. So once I start machining this down, I am actually within probably about 2/1000th of an inch of my tool bit here, the cutter, of banging into the jaws. But because you saw me set it up and then I backed it off a little bit, I was setting up the exact distance I'm going to, if I go any further, I'll end up running into it, and that way I don't, like I said, I don't end up taking a chunk out of the jaws, which would be really annoying. So there you go, number 1 done. So I'm going to quickly knock off another one of these and then do some of the fine finishing for it. Because this video is already getting too long, I am going to leave a bunch of that out. It's just a bunch of polishing and things and cutting to size. So I'll do that all off camera, and here you go, the end result. I think they turn out pretty good. They're aesthetically appealing, and they're way, way, way stronger than I need them to be, obviously. I mean, it's only holding 1/4 inch acrylic straight. Obviously, I haven't seen how the wooden part of this is going to fit together yet. I'll do that up over the weekend and have that ready for next Wednesday. But I mean, these are really strong. And the reason why I built them this way, as I said before, is I want to only use finger tightening on this, because I want this clamp to be quick and easy to use. So anyway, let me know what you think. You may have to wait till Wednesday to have a better view of what it's all going to be like. But leave comments, and as always, if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe, and I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.